Welcome to section 2. And in section 2, we're going to be talking all about effects processing. And in the spirit of this course, we're not going to be going super technical about the science behind a lot of these effects. Rather, I want you to just listen to them very closely, experiment with them, and get to a point where you're familiar enough to know, okay, if I want this particular effect, I know what I need to grab from, at least with what we have access to inside of Soundation. Effects processing has really been around since the beginning of recording technology. I could record something in the room I'm in right now, which is very dead, and it's why my voice sounds very clean. But imagine if I was recording this in Notre Dame Cathedral from 30 feet away. You'd probably hear a lot of echoes and my voice kind of carrying in a different sort of way. So from the very beginning of time, people have known with mic placement that you can get a certain type of effect. Or maybe if you have room on your mixing console, you could add a duplicate of a signal and maybe delay it ever so slightly or move it around the stereo field. And then suddenly you can kind of have an early chorus effect. And we've come a long way. And a lot of classic studio effects have been converted into digital signal processing, digital effects. And we can access those effects here by clicking the effects and then adding the plus sign to it. So what do we need to know in this first video? Well, what I want you to get out of this is to understand that our effects can mostly be broken up into three categories, and they're three of the major components of sound. Number one, we have time, so left to right, obviously, and if we just have our vocal sample, we have the beginning of the sample here, the end of the sample here, so there's time on that x-axis. The y-axis, amplitude, how loud or how soft something is. So we can zoom in to get a little bit of a better view, and you can see that some of the samples that come with Soundation are really squashed quite a bit, almost up to a point where we're crossing that threshold into digital clipping, or we have things that are a little more dynamic. All right, so you can see here it's quiet and here it's loud. So there are audio effects that can kind of manipulate this, and those are our amplitude effects. And the last set of effects we have are frequency effects, and we can't see frequency from looking, but that is how the sound actually sounds to our ears. It's really hard to try and define timbre, but the way I like to define timbre is just what makes a violin playing an A3 sound different from a trumpet playing an A3. And I'm sure right now in your head, you can probably think of a number of factors as to why that is, but that's timbre, and I'm going to kind of use timbre and frequency interchangeably because one of our major set of effects processors have to do with manipulating the various frequencies that are in any given audio signal. And every audio signal, especially those that exist in the real world, have hundreds, if not thousands, of different frequencies playing all together at varying amplitudes. And that's really where we get timbre from. So just looking here in Soundation, we can add effects, like I said, by clicking and selecting something. Now, our effects are going to work left to right, and that's pretty crucial because if I decide to put a reverb and then a filter, it's going to have one effect as compared to me starting with a filter and then adding a reverb. And that obvious effect is that this reverb is going to be filtered at this stage, where in the other version, the reverb won't be filtered, but the main audio signal will be filtered first. So with the filter at the end, it's impacting everything. The filter at the very beginning, it's starting by just impacting the audio signal itself. So that's the beginning of our effects, a little introduction for you. In the next several videos, we'll kind of break out the effects that we have access to, split them into those three categories, and explore what they're able to do. So strap in, it's going to be a lot of fun.